Welcome to Metaphysical Soul Speak. I'm your host, Elena Fox Starks. Hey guys, have you been feeling as strange as I feel lately? I don't know, the last few days I feel like sounds, I'm hearing them differently from every direction. I'm feeling like there's more space in between the individual cells of my body. I feel like my body isn't what it used to be, and I'm starting to feel taller. And even if I'm the same height, I'm like seeing from a higher perspective, like I'm looking down. I don't know, man. I feel like someone put acid in my water supply. I don't think that's what happened, but I kind of feel like we fell down that rabbit hole with Alice. But rather, instead of falling down a rabbit hole, it's almost like we've been swallowed up by a sinkhole. But we didn't know it, and we woke up on the other side of Wonderland. Because I feel so strange. I don't know why I feel so strange. It's really, I don't know. I can't explain it. I feel like different, I don't know. I felt like my ear chakras yesterday were on fire. And my ears themselves were fine to the touch. They weren't hot. Everything was fine. But I just felt like all my lesser chakras as well as my major chakras were just expanding. And I just feel like expanded and more enlightened somehow. But I can't scientifically put a finger on it, obviously. I don't know. I asked my higher guidance about the ascension energy today, and we're at 99. I had a really strange dream. I don't know, in the morning, it was very weird. It wasn't a prophecy or something, but I was walking in the streets of Cuenca, and I was on a date with this man who I just met a couple days before, and we were walking and we were holding hands and having a good conversation, and we were just on a normal cobblestone road here, and he said, "Quickly, come in here, I want to show you something cool." And we went up a couple stone steps that were 500 years old, and then we went through a tunnel, like a tunnel hallway, even though it was outside. And then we went down some steps, and then just the river had flooded, and we walked along a walkway through the river water, and we were up to our waists in river water. And he's like telling me, "Isn't this so cool?" And I didn't protest. I'm like, "Yeah, this is really cool. I feel real strange and really good and really different. I like it." It was like I'd never been in water before. I don't know what that means. It was such a weird dream. And then later in that dream, we ended the date, and he hugged me goodbye and he left. And then I walked to where my son was working, and I told him, "I want to show you something. Let's go for a walk." And then I did the same thing with him, and we walked through that river, the river water, even though it was a normal walkway. It wasn't an actual river bed we were walking on. So it was like super safe. It was just water. But we were surrounded by all these trees and the foliage, and it was so alive, and it was like we were in a different dimension. And I said, "How do you feel here?" He says, "This is really great, Mom. I'm really liking it. I really enjoy it." I'm like, "Yeah, I like being in the river water. It's like almost like a baptism." You know, water stands for the subconscious mind and passive energy, as well as feminine energy, which is a quiet power. Traditionally speaking, of course. but there was like nothing in the water. It wasn't like, it was like kind of murky because it was river water, it had branches and leaves, but it was pure water, and it was, there was no obstacles and no animals, and we couldn't get hurt. I don't know what that means. Like, did somebody walk me through my own subconscious to see that it's pure? And then I walked my son through it, his, to show him that his is pure too. Was it a baptism? Have any of you had dreams about water or waterways, specifically rivers, lately? It's very weird. Rivers can also symbolize a way or a passage of time, or that you're always reaching something new constantly, like your life. But obviously everyone has their own dream symbols. You could go listen to my dream episode. But I don't know, guys. It was such a strange, and I feel like, have you ever felt like dreamlike for a full day after you've had a dream like that? That's what I've been going through. I just feel like been swimming underwater all day today. I mean, I asked Archangel Michael, or do I have any attachments? Take them off, And no, I just feel this way because I feel this way. But it could be the Schumann resonance. Today we are at 99 on the Ascension Energy Scale. And the Schumann resonance today, it says, the movements have now practically become continuous. The chart indicates about 5 hours of almost calm, after which the variation started up again at 1700 UTC, with a series of oscillations lasted 4 hours and reached 40 hertz until 21 UTC. These were followed by a period of 4 hours in which the peaks were slight, and then they started to widen again until they exceeded 40 hertz at 8 UTC. And then after that, the evening report was calm. Which doesn't make any sense, because it says that it lasted until 21 UTC time, but then at 17, it said it was calm. So I don't know what that was about. I think they just feel unthorough if they don't actually put the evening report out, but it's almost like the first report was for the whole day. Anyway, it is what it is. So I had this wild thought of reading the Celestine prophecy to you, like a chapter a week, for the next, God knows, like 4 months or something, like an ongoing story. But then I realized, copyrights exist and such. So I am going to review the Celestine prophecy, and I'm going to tell you the wild story that happened to me as a direct result of having read this book. Everybody I know who read this book, it changed their lives. So we're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to come right back with thoughts, insights, and unique stories you've never heard before about the Celestine prophecy. After this. Hey you, have you ever thought about having your own podcast like me? Was it even a New Year's resolution? For me, it sure was. But as I've been looking into this for months, I was daunted. There's so many questions I had. When I was trying to get this off the ground, I was wondering, how do I record the episode? How do I get it across all the platforms? How do I get my podcast on Apple Podcasts when I don't even have an iPhone? How do I get it onto Spotify and all the other places? How do I get people to listen? And how do I make money from my podcast? How do I edit it? Oh my God, I had all these questions, and I was so confused until I discovered the simple answer is Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free, and it is ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you could get paid to podcast. All you need to do is record it. You don't have to go out and look for people to advertise on your show. They help you. So basically what I like about podcasting is I don't have to have a video of myself. You don't know if my hair is dirty or if I'm still in my pajamas or even if I'm wearing makeup. Haha. And it's so easy. I could do this from the comfort of my own home in my living room using this amazing app right from my cell phone. So easy, right? So if you've always wanted to start your own podcast and make money, by the way, doing it, please go to anchor.fm/start. That is anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters that are already using Anchor. Again, that's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast, and I can't wait to favorite you. Woohoo! Let's be broadcast podcast buddies. I'll see you there. A note about last night's show. A couple points during the show, I felt a little bit afraid to share some of the truths that I revealed, but I did it anyway because a family is only as sick as its secrets, and a healthy person is only as healthy as the percentage of a story that one owns about oneself. I decided a while ago to own my story 100%. And I hope that none of my episode yesterday made you feel uncomfortable. But if it does, if it resonated with you in a kind of a sort of, solar plexus energy sort of way, it might be a time for you to also own your story, to take back your power. And I've done just that. It wasn't my stories or some of the things. So, because there's like maybe 3 or 4 sentences in my whole hour and a half. But after I got done recording, I felt this huge weight lifted out of me. And then I felt like this hole in my solar plexus. And I realized it's because I just purged and released a bunch of energy that I no longer need to hold on to. And I was so happy about it. And then I started feeling like, ooh, what do people think? What would people think? And the family I talked about, what if they, or all the families I talked about, or what if my kids don't? And then I started realizing that this is my story. This is my story. So if somebody else doesn't like my story, that's not on me, that's on them. Because my story and my truth is my truth. This comes from me. When I speak to you guys, it's from the heart. When I reveal secrets, it's because I am owning my story and making them no longer a secret. Because I am a healthy person, and that is how I continue to be a healthy person. When things come up, if it's relevant, if it's going to help somebody else, I will share it. So it felt good to purge finally that family out of my life, out of my memory and out of my mind. And I feel like Dumbledore, when he pulls and extracts a silvery memory from his head and puts it in the pensieve. Do you remember that from the Harry Potter movies? Well, that's kind of how I feel now. I feel like I'm in the process of unleashing and unveiling all of these, pulling it out strand by strand out of my head, because it's just a distant memory and it's going to fade back into the hands of time. And in time, I'm not even going to remember it anymore, because it's not truly of any more consequence to me. I know who I am and I know where I am going. And as I was contemplating this, and I was like doing a couple exercises, and God sent angels to me and Raphael to me, it was like automatically, without asking, I had angels at my side in a heartbeat. And I felt them, and I'm like, you guys felt a massive purging, didn't you? And they're like, yeah. And I asked God, and he said, I know what you need, and I sent the help you needed. That's what happens when you have a really great relationship with the One Will. And I hope that my show helps you to have a greater relationship with One Will. But I started to do a meditation with the Grand Central Sun, and the Grand Central Sun said to me, do not worry for what you share, because your story is everybody's story. And everybody's stories are everybody's stories. There is no secrets from God. There are no secrets from God. There are no secrets from the Grand Central Sun of the universe, which is God, right? It's all a part. Everything is a part of the One. There is nothing that you could say or do that would shock the mind of God. Excuse me. And there is nothing that could or would happen that would make God love you less. And I felt honored that you guys are here as a witness to help me, like, release the energy of that. So I wanted to thank you. And that's why I'm here also. So anytime you need healing, remember, you can always ask my higher self for guidance and healing. You could tap into the planetary healing grid. Just say, I'd like to tap into the higher healing grid, the higher power healing grid around the planet to heal my heart, soul, mind, body, emotions, whatever. Or you could just say, hey, Elena's higher self, help me. Because that energy is going to come from the grid. I'm already pumping that energy into the grid 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I have been for many, many years. This is how I have grown by leaps and bounds spiritually, by just giving away free healing energy to tens of thousands of people per day. And I just wanted to mention that. I mean, I hope that it didn't make you feel uncomfortable, but if it did, if you felt a little bit of a resistance or a drag, a little bit of, ooh, she shouldn't have said that. Ooh, that's a little uncomfortable. If that came up in you, then you need to start looking to where that connects to your own personal story and start healing it, because we're all getting healthier together. This is a collective effort of humanity. This is not just one woman, Wanda the Worm Woman. There's a weird little reference to Tom Waits. Okay, that was a weird tangent. So no, this is not just a story of one woman's journey. Although I'm sharing a great deal of my personal journey with you, the crazy stuff, the psychedelic stuff, the wild spirits just show up in my life. The more you go up as a shaman, the more wilder your story gets. But this isn't just about me. This is about you too. So whatever you do relate to in my story, whatever I can talk about that will heal you, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to heal you and share who I am, because if I can own my story as an example, you can learn to own your story also. You know, once you own it 100% and you're solid in that, even if it's uncomfortable. I mean, my God, lives here on earth have been freaking messy. Oh my God, they've been complicated. So don't worry about it. Everybody has something, or some things, or many, many some things. We all have something. It's about honoring your story, owning your story, taking back your power, coming into your own as a powerful spiritual light being in this universe. And it's about spiritual growth and maturation. It's about being responsible for being the God and the goddess that you are. All right, guys. The Celestine prophecy was first written, or published at least, in 1993 by James Redfield. And at that time, my God, was he all the rage. This was all over. I mean, not just New Age bookstores and in spiritual circles behind closed doors, but out loud in front of the masses. And I believe that he kind of had a vision that this book would take off and increase people's spiritual awareness, and we would reach the 100th monkey effect, or a critical mass. And I believe that he was a huge, huge, huge part of people becoming as aware as they are. Even if you've never heard of this book, I think the people that came before you, the people that you're learned from him. You know, for sure I'm one of those people. So I'm going to read to you from the book cover. It says, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, God rest her soul, she had an MD. She was a doctor. She studied the experience of death, and we would not have the stages of grief mapped out if it wasn't for her pioneering work in that. But she wrote a fabulous book about experiencing life. I couldn't put it down. And I'm, to be honest, this book, if you have never heard of it, you've got to read it like immediately. This is like, one of the first things on the spiritual path people should read, I think. It's called The Celestine Prophecy, an Adventure, and it really is an adventure. It says this is what the story's about. It's a fictional book, but it has real, true, deep, profound spiritual insights and things will actually help you on your spiritual journey. So it says, in the rainforests of Peru, an ancient manuscript has been discovered. Within its pages are 9 key insights into life itself. Insights into each human being that is predicted to grasp sequentially. Insights each human being is predicted to grasp sequentially, one insight then another, as we move toward a complete spiritual culture on Earth. I don't know, when he wrote that, he's just, honestly, James Redfield, he wasn't lying. This book changed my life in wild ways. So I'm going to read, so he challenges the reader here. He says, are 3 decades of interest in modern physics, ecology, mystical religion, interpersonal psychology finally synthesizing into a new spiritual, quote-unquote, common sense? Are we now beginning to live this new common sense? Can it become the dominant paradigm of the next century? We're in the next century now. I think it has. I think it has become the paradigm. So it says, the Celestine Prophecy. When James Redfield first published this extraordinary book, an adventure in pursuit of a spiritual mystery, people picked it up, read it, and were stunned by its contents. They told their friends about it. Friends in turn told their friends. By word of mouth alone, news of this magical moving work spread throughout the country, and until within months of its first printing, over 100,000 readers had become excited by its predictions and touched by the way it made sense of what was happening in their lives. Now you can discover for yourself the insights, the vision, and the uncanny accuracy of the Celestine prophecy, a parable filled with vital truths that reads like a gripping adventure tale. It begins with the disappearance of an ancient Peruvian manuscript. Although few Westerners know of its existence and the government wants to suppress it, this precious document contains an important secret, the 9 insights that the human race is predicted to grasp as we enter an era of true spiritual awareness. To find the manuscript and its hidden treasures, you will join one person's search. It is a quest that will carry you high into the Andes Mountains, to ancient ruins deep in old-growth forest, and to a startling discovery. You will quickly recognize the truth of the first insight. In each of our lives occur mysterious coincidences, sudden synchronistic events that, once interpreted, lead us to our true destiny. When you find and understand all 9 of the insights, you will have an exciting new image of human life and a positive vision of how we are to save this planet, its creatures, and its beauty. The Celestine prophecy will give you hope and chills as you begin to perceive its predictions unfolding all around you in intimate relationships and in international affairs. And you will suddenly recognize the quantum leap forward humankind is preparing to make as we approach the new millennium. Important works such as Carlos Castaneda's The Teachings of Don Juan and the Prophecies of Nostradamus have helped prepare the way for the revelations you will find in James Redfield's life-changing words. The time is right to hear them and to discover the personal journey that is opening in your life. So that's what it says on the inside. That's like the selling pitch, I suppose you would call it. Then on the very back book cover, it says, "You have never read a book like this before." The Celestine prophecy contains secrets that are currently changing our world. Drawing on the ancient wisdom found in a Peruvian manuscript, it tells you how to make connections between the events happening in your own life right now, and lets you see what's going to happen to you in the years to come. A book that has been passed from hand to hand, friend to friend, since it first appeared in small bookshops across America, the Celestine prophecy is a work that has come to light at a time when the world deeply needs to read its words. The story tells a gripping one of adventure and discovery, but it's also a guidebook that has the power to crystallize your perceptions of why you are where you are in life, and to direct your steps with a new energy and optimism as you head into tomorrow. A book that comes along once in a lifetime to change lives forever. The Celestine prophecy. So yeah, this was all the rage. It was going all over the US, and I refused to read it for like a couple years. I was just like, oh God, here we go. And everyone's like, no, you don't understand, Elena. This is a great book. It's a great book. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to follow the masses, darn it. I don't want to, and I just kind of resisted. I resisted until 1996. So like for 3 years, this was like, already like 100,000 people had read it by 1993. So it was just one of those things that was passed from hand to hand in like not even book form at first. It was just printed off of like Xerox machines and passed along for free. James Redfield wanted people to talk about it, and people just couldn't help themselves but share it. So I don't know. I mean, he created this massive sensation. So is it true? Is it real? Is it worth it? Oh my God, you betcha. Yes, it is. Absolutely. If you've never heard of this book, I'm serious. Like tomorrow, this is imperative. You got to go get it and read it. You could read it online on an ebook. I'm going to start on soulspeakradio.com my book list. And I'm going to put my Amazon links from my Amazon account so that you could just click right through my page to order any books that I recommend, because I'm going to start recommending quite a bit of books. You know, if you haven't read the ones I'm mentioning already, it's going to be something you're going to want. And, it's I would love to have read the book to you, but I just don't want to get in trouble with copyrights and whatever. But this book is really weird. Like, it will show up in your life when you need it to. This book has some kind of crazy magical quality that it's inexplicable. When I first read it, I was living in a bedroom in a house. I had a bunch of roommates. It was a madhouse. It was a crazy house. Our next door neighbor was a serious alcoholic, and he drank a couple cases of beer. I don't mean 6-packs, honey. I mean cases. Like 24 beers a day. Sometimes 30 beers a day. I'd watch this guy put it away. He had a cement company, and all he did was pour cement all day and drink beer in the hot sun. And he had 10 roommates, and they mostly kept to themselves, but a couple of them were like, we knew them. But the main guy who owned the house, he was a friend of ours too, and everybody was like partying. So he was always drunk and having parties and asking people to have parties. And then I'd come home to my house, and one roommate would be smoking weed, and another one would be tripping balls on mushrooms or acid. And another one would be smoking crack in the garage. I mean, it was like literally a crazy house. I mean, and I lived there because right before I had been completely homeless, like literally living in my girlfriend's trailer in her front yard. And until one night her husband said that I can't be trusted and locked the door so that I couldn't use the bathroom at night. And it was at that moment in which I was literally in my girlfriend's front yard peeing behind one of her bushes at night that I realized this is maybe my lowest point ever. I had been like extremely sick, and I had ended up in the hospital. And while I was in the hospital, I had started to cough up blood, and they thought I might have tuberculosis. So they put me in quarantine for a couple weeks. And during those couple weeks, my boyfriend proceeded to never visit me, never call me. And when I called him, it was always while he was having a party, which seemed to be every night. And when I got out of the hospital, he came to pick me up, and he said, "There's something I have to tell you." And then I got into his house, and all of my stuff was in boxes. And he said, "It's over between us. Take your shit and get out." And I'm like, what the hell? Because where am I going to go? And so he dropped me off at the cheapest hotel there was. And I had exactly enough money to pay for 1 week. And at the end of that 1 week, and I couldn't find a job, I was recovering from a really serious illness in which I almost died. I ended up homeless. So I didn't have a car. So I was like literally homeless in my friend's yard, which was pretty freaking low. And her husband was not going to trust a gringa in his house. No way. How dare I want to maybe sleep in their spare guest bedroom that had a bed, or that maybe I might want to sleep on their couch or even on their floor. Even in their backyard on the cot would have been great. But he said no. And she said, "Well, the trailer's mine. I own it, so you can sleep inside the trailer." And the day after the peeing in the yard part, I ended up, I went back to the trailer to try to spend one more night there, and it was locked. And she wouldn't answer her phone or the door anymore. And in time, her phone numbers changed. So I don't understand why people can be so cruel to others, but I've witnessed and experienced my fair share of it. And I don't know, it's just very weird. And I don't kind of remember, I do remember going to a payphone and I was calling all these people. I didn't have a cell phone yet. We weren't quite to the cell phone level of the world yet. I had my degree in psychology, but I didn't have a job. And I just didn't really, I don't know, I didn't know what to do. I mean, I ended up getting a job, but like that week, but I had like about a week where I was just like, what the hell am I going to do with my life? And it was really hard, really hard. Like I didn't know. I didn't want, I was so embarrassed. Yeah, I didn't want to call my mom. Guess what? Yay, I spent 8 years getting a degree and now I'm, yay, homeless and jobless and what the heck. And I'd been working at LA Pierce College, but it had ended, like the semester was over. And I was waiting for the next semester. And the next semester I did have a job tutoring people, tutoring human anatomy and different, biology. I tutored science, so that was my forte, was to tutoring basic life sciences and stuff. And I just didn't know what to do. And it took me a couple weeks before I figured it out. But then I decided to tutor high school kids. And I tutored high school kids for $30 an hour. But if I tutored more than one, it was only $20 an hour. And if I tutored more than three, then it was like $15 an hour. Minimum 2 hours. So I went from making $20 an hour to $45 an hour. And so I was able to support myself with that for a while. It was just like one of those necessities and mother of invention type of things. But my life had not been going terribly great. And I was standing on a payphone and talking, just trying to get information on this guy's Better Me had. And I get off the phone and I had just overheard this guy on the payphone next to me saying, I made $10,000 a month, dude. Oh my God. It's phenomenal. Business is freaking booming. I'm so excited. And I'm like, dude, I'm like standing here freaking homeless. Like this just blows, right? And we both hang up the phone at the same time and we turn to each other and I said to him, he said to me, I overheard you on the phone. You need a place to live. I've got a place for you to live. And I said, well, that's great because I overheard you say you make $10,000 a month and I'm assuming you're single and you're good looking. So, hey, maybe you need a girlfriend. And we both started laughing so hard. And he said, it's so great to see you again. And he hugged me like so hard, like I was his best friend ever. And I'm like, what? I don't know you. And he goes, of course you do. You're my soul friend, dude. I totally recognize you. I recognized your voice and your energy before I even saw your face. Now that I saw your face, I know you. You're my soulmate. You're my soul friend. You're one of my soulmates. I'm like, cool. And he goes, you're going to love my family. They're crazy. I go, well, now I've got an appointment with this weirdo. So he's coming to pick me up, and he was really incommunicative, and I'm obliged to go look at his house, and then I'm going to say no, and then I'll come right back. And he said, well, I'll be here. I'm going to go. My house is like a block from here, but I'm going to come back for more beer. So just come back to the 7-Eleven and I'll be back in the next hour or so. I'm having a really good night and I'm having a party. I had no idea what I'm walking into at this time, but I'm like, sure. All right. I can't wait. And his name was Neil. And I'm like, Neil, he's so cool. And so I just, I went and I looked at this other guy's house and they had hardly any lighting on. And it looked like if you could get a 15-watt light bulb, I guess that's what they're lighting their house with. It was so scary. It was like a really cheesy 1970s horror movie. And it wasn't their fault. They were renting the house and they wanted to sublet to me. But, the house itself was scary, and it wasn't the people's fault. It was just a creepy house built in the 70s, dark wood paneling, gold flakes in the ceiling that was a popcorn ceiling, acoustic ceiling, and shag carpet. I didn't think shag carpet existed anymore in the world. I thought it would have already disintegrated by now, but red shag carpet, ugh, it was so gross. It was one of the grossest places. And the place smelled like, which looking back now, knowing what I know now, it smelled like some kind of weird tobacco, and I couldn't put a finger on it. But now that I've smoked hookah, I knew it was cherry or maybe Egyptian double apple that I was smelling in this person's house. And I just was like, okay. And he says, okay, so you could come in here and see, here's the room. And the room is really small and really yellow. And even the parts that should have been white were yellow because of tobacco smoke. And the floor was shag. It was just one of the most depressing, I felt that I probably should kill myself before I live in this room. It was that bad. I was just like, this would be lower than peeing in my friend's yards. So I'm like, okay, you know what, guys? This is the deal. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to, get back to you on it. And they're like, well, what do you want to ask us? I'm like, well, I don't know. Tell me about, I guess, your lifestyle. And then he walked me into the living room, and there was probably 4 people there. But because I'm an empath and I'm highly introverted and super socially awkward, I felt like there was 20 people there. And there's probably only 4, but they were very sweet and very mild people. But they said we're Muslims. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And then I started realizing that everybody's wearing some kind of a robe. And looking back now that I know what I know about Saudi culture and different Arab cultures and Islam and all that, I realized the men were wearing thobes. And the women had robes, and the women were covered head to toe. And they weren't wearing black, though. They were wearing, pretty colors, beautiful dresses, but with hijab that matched and shoes that matched and leggings under their clothing. And they said, we expect you to eat dinner with us every single night. We expect you to put money into cooking the meals and helping us cook the meals every single night. And we expect you to dress respectable. And I was wearing shorts and a tank top at the time. And he pointed to my legs. He goes, you're not allowed to dress like this. And, you have to be home at a certain time. You're not allowed to have anybody in your room ever. Men or women, especially men. And you're not allowed to have sex or drink alcohol here. And I looked at this man and I said, I respect your right to have rules in your house. Your religion and tradition is your own, and, good for you. But I'm a grown frickin' adult, and if I want to walk around naked in my room, I will. If I want to, have sex with every guy in town in my room, if I'm renting the room, that's called renter's rights. You can't put these kind of limitations and restrictions on somebody. So I have absolutely zero interest living here. I'd rather be homeless. And, and he goes, oh. And I'm like, I'm probably going to smoke weed. I'm probably going to drink a lot. I just went through a harrowing ordeal. I don't have any interest in being forced to live your religion just because I needed to rent a room to not be homeless. this is America. And the thing is about our country is that we have rights for renters. We have rights for individuals. And every individual has a right of freedom of pursuit of their own happiness and their own religion. We have freedom of religion. And you can't tell me to be your religion if I'm not ready or don't want to. You know, it's freaking 100 degrees outside. I'm not going to cover up from head to toe with like a bunch of clothes and leggings with a big, huge robe over it because it suits you personally that I do so. So maybe just, you know, go to your church or whatever it's called, you know, go to your mosque. You go find your people. Find somebody there who needs a room that would be okay with your rules, or someone from your country and your culture. You know, maybe someone that speaks your language first so you have a deep communication with each other, as opposed to me, who will be a terrible roommate for you. And so he was like super disappointed. I'm like, I'm so sorry. He's like, I'll lower the link. Yeah, but, you know, giving up my freedom isn't what I'm interested in. So all of this was going on in my life when I came to the house in which I discovered this book, The Celestine Prophecy. So I come back to 7-Eleven and I'm like, man, what am I going to do? When is this guy going to come back? You know, this rich dude, how did he get rich? I want to know how he made his money, right? Turned out he made his money by selling strawberries, and I ended up working for him. He paid me $100 a day to sell strawberries at the side of the road in the desert with him. And it was really, really fun. But I ended up living there, and his mother was a very famous person. And she was an actress, a movie star. She acted with Elvis Presley. And she and I became very good friends, and she was deeply spiritual. And she said, well, Neil started calling me Peaches because I look like the girl next door. You know, very pale skin, red hair, green eyes, big boobs. I don't know what it is about him that made me what it is about me that made him call me Peaches, but whatever it is, I'm just like this typical fresh-faced girl next door. I kind of have a bounce in my step. I'm kind of happy when I walk around, and I'm always in my own little world singing to myself. I mean, it's just like my nature to be this way. Well, he started calling me Peaches, and so suddenly everyone in the neighborhood started calling me Peaches out of nowhere. Like I didn't even know the people next door, and then one day, the guy from next door came over and goes, "Oh, you must be Peaches," and I'm like, "What the hell?" Everyone in the neighborhood in like 2 seconds became like my crazy extended dysfunctional family, and and they all start calling me Peaches. So suddenly I have a nickname. Suddenly, for the first time in my life, I fit in and I belong with a bunch of misfits, because that's obviously where I belong. But one day, Jenny was saying to me, "Oh, Peaches, you need to read The Celestine Prophecy. This book changed my life. This book changed everybody's life who has read it. And I make everybody read it, but it's going to change your life. I've got to warn you." I'm like, well, I'm not interested, Jenny. My life has changed so freaking much. You know, I went from having this bright, big, beautiful future before me to a year later being really sick and having my boyfriend throw me out, and at my lowest possible point, which then got lower when I was peeing in my friend's yard. I'm like, so you have to understand that my life has had hella changes. I know it's all spiritual. I know it's all dark night of the soul crap. I trust the universe. I knew all along there was something better, but I didn't know what yet. So I just kept putting it off. And I'd had a couple books, but I finished reading them, and I used all of my tutoring hours, all that money, most of it, some of it went to rent and most of it went to books. Barnes & Noble was on the way home. I just never had a damn chance to save my money. It was just all about book learning. So all right, Jenny, one day I just late at night, 3 or 4 in the morning, I'm looking around the house and I'm just like, well, half smoked joint? No. Wow, there's a little bit of whiskey left? No. You know, it's like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do now? Flipping through the channels and there's nothing on. I think Hellraiser was on and I had watched it already and I was scared to death of it. And I just was wondering how that guy could have so much acupuncture and yet not be a good person. All his needles sticking out of his head along all the meridians. And then I started wondering, are the meridians correct? Shut off the TV. I'm like, all right, damn it. I'm going to borrow the Celestine prophecy. No one's reading it now. Everyone in the house had already read it. So I went and I turned on the light and I made myself a cup of tea and I sat down and I read this book and I started reading it. And in the first part of the book, it's talking about how this woman and this man, they run into each other. They haven't seen each other in a long time. And she's telling him, if you ever are in a public space and you lock eyes with somebody for more than a second, then that means that there's something spiritual that they need to tell you or that you need to tell them. And an exchange needs to happen more than just the eye lock thing. So I read that and then I reread that and I contemplated that and I took a nap and then I reread that. And I was just like, dude, I can't read any more of this book. I got to put it down. This is too crazy. So I went into the pub. Usually I was going very late at night, hanging out. I had a friend from Scotland. He was like the town alcoholic, but funny guy. It was an English pub, but he was Scottish. I was Irish. There's jokes flying all over. I mean, I'm not Irish. I'm Irish American. He was Scottish, like directly from Scotland. But I had friends from all over the UK because they attended this bar. And I went and I played darts, and every couple hours, the whole crowd and energy changed and shifted. So if you go at 6 o'clock, it's going to be people you've never seen before. If you go at 9 o'clock and you're always at 9 o'clock, those people are always there. You starting from like 11 till closing, it's a whole nother different kind of crowd altogether. And my crowd was the 11 to 2 in the morning crowd. So I worked nights and I'd get home. I had 3 or 4 different jobs actually. They all paid just very little, but they all paid my life. So anyway, but I would usually close out the bar. I knew the bartenders pretty well. Just go have a pint. I would have my Guinness and just hang out. And, it was fun. It was friendly. It was like Cheers, honestly. But I couldn't read the book anymore. I was bored as hell. Everybody I knew they were busy or out of town that weekend, and that's what started me reading the book. So I get there, and I see this guy standing there at the bar who's so freaking handsome. And I'm like, I am so drawn to this guy. I don't know who this guy is, but I'm so drawn to him. And he turns and he looks at me the same, and we lock eyes for more than 2 seconds. I'm like, we're meant to meet. Okay, let's, do the principles of the book. So I went and I talked to him, and I didn't recognize him because the last time I had seen him, he was a little kid with braces and googly eye glasses, and he's somebody that I knew my whole life. I had grown up with him. In fact, when I moved to Minnesota, Eric and I remained PayPals. What is that called? Is it PayPal? No. PayPal, Print Pal. Now I can't. Writing Pal, Pen Pals. God, that was super hard. Oh my God. See, memory, by the way, is an ascension symptom. This is part of the ascension flow. This is something I've definitely been going through. My whole body, I'm burning up right now. While I'm doing this show right now, by the way, I have melted half of a bag of ice with my back, with my lower back. My Kundalini is so active that my back is burning up. I don't have a fever, but my back feels like I have a fever, my spine. So, all right. Oh, God. I know. Can you hear my ice? My ice pack. I'm like burning up. I'm like literally holding ice right now, and I'm burning up still. So I did get a visit from Lucifer, Prince of Darkness, the devil, earlier. I don't think this is a joke from him. It's something he would do, though. He's always trying to he comes to tempt me. And I'm like, get out of here, Lucy. I don't need you. I don't need you to tempt me. And he's like, but you have no fun. You need to get out and have more fun. I'm like, yes, you're right, but not going to listen to the devil, buddy. The devil's bored. He doesn't tempt people really anymore like he used to. All the devils are bored. Anyway, so I ended up talking to Eric for a couple hours. And it turns out he was working for National Geographic and taking pictures of wildlife. And I thought, what a sweet profession. It's perfect for him. And he and I have remained friends ever since that day. Like the Celestine prophecy got him and I back in touch with each other. And I just feel like I'm glad even though he's not actively a part of my life, I'm so grateful that, I don't know, I'm just really super grateful that I got to see him again, I always liked him. He was one of the sweetest people I had ever met. And his dad was a professor at UCLA, and his mom was a lunch lady, and she made hot lunches for us at school on Friday. We had bag lunch the rest of the week. Friday was hot lunch day in Calvary Lutheran Elementary School, which no longer even exists, by the way. So it was very strange. It was like weird because, I had lived in Minnesota. I'd lived all over. I'd been an adult for many years. And then for me just to run into one of my childhood friends like that was so cool. Like, he was one of my crew. Like, we were kind of the dorks, And he grew up to be this super handsome, super successful, and super sweet person that I always knew he would be. He sent me my first hay penny. I'd never seen a hay penny in all my life. His dad went to teach in Cambridge for a year, and he sent me a hay penny. And I just thought, that is like the sweetest thing in the world. Anyway, so because of the Celestine prophecy, I was able to run into my friend Eric. And then after that, I couldn't put the book down. So for days, I'd go to sleep. Usually I was watching Perry Mason while I stopped that to read this book, and then I'd go back and reread chapters because it was that good. Then I was at work one day and my girlfriends are like, hey, let's go to this rockabilly bar. I'm like, oh my God. All right, fine. I don't know anything about rockabilly. I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about, but let's go. So I got there and realized in like 2 seconds, I freaking love rockabilly. It's great music. It's fun. I never went back, but it was like fun. Well, I get there and there's this guy, another guy, staring at me. And I'm like, do you know what that means when you stare at somebody? And I told him the whole thing. And he's like, what? And I'm like, I don't know what we have in common, but we got something in common. We've got to talk about something. I don't know what it is. And he goes, well, I don't know. I went to school in Santa Barbara. I'm like, I went to school in Santa Barbara. That's so weird. I go, did you go to UCSB? And he goes, no, I went to Santa Barbara City College. I'm like, that's what I did. And he goes, well, I'm an actor and I studied theater there. I'm like, so did I. So am I. I can't believe it. That's so cool. What? This book is like changing my life left and right. Suddenly. So I was like, okay. And I'm like, did you happen to have a teacher, Pope Freeman? And he goes, that's my teacher. That's my teacher. Oh my God. And then we had all these people in common. And I'm like, well, I want to see you again because definitely we have like a frick ton in common. So, I need to go now. But give me something so that I know for a fact I'm going to see you again. And I grabbed the hat off of his head, which I never do. I never do anything like that. But I did that day. I just grabbed the hat off his head and I hopped in the back of my girlfriend's car and we freaking sped off. And all he had was my pager number. And the next day I had to go to work and I had to turn off my pager. So when I opened up my pager again, I had like 99 angry messages because apparently that was his favorite hat and he wanted it back. And he's like, how could you do this to me? And he like was in all kinds of stress mode. And I'm like, okay, fine. I called him. I'm like, I'm sorry, I was at work for 8 hours and they asked me to run an extra 2 hours. I couldn't turn on my pager. I was busy. My pager's locked in my locker. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stress you out. I thought it'd be kind of playful and fun. And I would not just steal your hat. I was just borrowing it for the day. It was like a cool hat though. It did look good on me. Yeah. Because I love hats. But anyway, he's like, okay, fine. And I said, well, meet me at my favorite pub. And I went to the pub at 6 o'clock now, a totally different time slot than I normally do. I told you it changes hands every 2 hours, every 2 to 4 hours is a whole new crowd. So I was at the bar at 6 o'clock waiting for him. And he just it took him forever to get there, like an hour and a half. And my girlfriends were with me and they're like, when is this dude going to show? Like, come on. They're like, this blows. We're going to go to a club. You want to come? I'm like, no, I've got to wait for this guy. So you guys go. See you later. They take off. I'm sitting by myself at the bar. I mean, in the bar, but at a table. And there's this guy sitting at the bar and he's got this tattoo of a dragon on his head. And I'm like, dragons do mean something significant. But I'm not going to talk to him. I don't know. I don't know what he's about. He's got a tattoo on his head. I mean, he could be a freaking gangster. He could be anything. I don't know. And I'm looking at him. And he's looking at me. And then I realize, oh my God, we've locked eyes for more than 2 seconds. Damn you, Celestine Prophecy. Damn you. Oh my God, you don't leave me alone for a second. I'm here waiting for the second person I locked eyes with this week, and now a third man. So what does this guy have to do with my life? My God. So he was looking at me and I'm looking at him. I'm like, well, you know what? Shit howdy. I'm just going to be a little bit flip here. I'm going to be a little bit weird. And I'm going to walk right up to this guy. And I'm going to say the ballsiest thing I could possibly say. Because I'm going to challenge the Celestine Prophecy. I am defying the mystical powers of this book. And I said, hi. I'm looking for my future ex-husband. I was wondering if you'd like to be him. Yeah, I said that. So basically, 9 months later, we were married. 6 weeks later, we were getting divorced. So, yeah. So, I'm warning you, Celestine Prophecy comes with a warning that it will change your life. It will be for the better. Sometimes, if it changes your life in a relationship sense, the goddess Mura might be with you. I don't know what power the Celestine Prophecy holds for real, but it is true, palpable, mystical power. And I mean, everything about this book. So I was married to my husband and we were together, my first husband, Tony, and we were together for we literally were married for 6 weeks. And then I left him and I filed for divorce 6 months later. So technically like 6, 7, 8 months we were married, but and he was a great guy. He's still a great guy. He's still an amazing person. I mean, I don't know. I haven't talked to him, since like the divorce, but a few times we talked, but he is and was and remains one of my greatest inspirations. He is one of the greatest people ever. And when I met my second husband, I knew what being in love was. It was being in love at first sight because I remembered who he was. And my first husband, I loved him, but I was not in love with him. That was the only difference. And I don't mean in love like the infatuation, falling in love, blah, 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 hormones. It was different. It was a spiritual, I have spiritual discernment, and I knew. But we had been together about a month, and I said, I have to make a confession to you. And he's like, what? I go, the only reason. I was in that bar waiting for a guy who I think probably was a jerk, to be honest. He flew off the handle because I took his hat. It's just a hat. It was just a cute way of trying to make sure we see each other again. And when he came to get the hat, I was already having a deep conversation with Tony. And this guy left. And he was a catalyst to get me to meet Tony. See, the universe works in mysterious ways, and when you start listening to the cues and signals, such as are given in the Celestine prophecy, it starts to change your life and move things for you in ways that you had no freaking clue it could move. So I told him, I have a secret. I had been reading the Celestine prophecy, and because you locked eyes with me for more than 2 seconds, I knew we were destined to talk. I had no idea we're destined to be married. But here we are. And he said, I can't believe it. And he got a tear in his eye, and I'm like, what? What? He's like, are you mad at me? Like, because I read a book and I heeded the words in the book, and that's the only reason we're married today? And he's like, no, God, I hate that book. I hate that book so much, except now I love that book, so now I don't know how to feel. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, well, he had been living with a girl a woman for a couple years before he met me, and he was madly in love with her. She read this book and locked eyes with somebody else. And she left him because of this book. So this book broke up one relationship. And he looks at me and he goes, well, to be honest with you, that book really did owe me a relationship. So, yeah, I don't know. This book, it talks about auras. It talks about how you can energetically feel when somebody is being rapey energetically. They don't really say the word rapey, but I mean, it's just, I got it from Billy Joe Armstrong. But I heard him say that once. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good word, right? It's a good word for that energy. Like so like if someone is like trying to impose and encroach their will on you, somebody tried to do that to me today. It was so weird. Like even yesterday or a couple times in the past 3 days. And I'm like, why am I attracting this energy? So when I get off this, I'm going to have to reach deep down again. And okay, why am I attracting that? 2 men randomly contacted me on Twitter, which is not a dating site. Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. People are mistaking these places for dating sites, and it's just gross. The energy of that is so yucky. Like when someone says, hi, what are you doing on Facebook? It's like, hi, I'm keeping in touch with my family and friends. Like, frickin' hint, hint, hint. And they go, oh, well, I'm romantic and I like long walks on the beach and my wife died in a car accident. It's always like, these are the guys I attract. Every single one of them is dead wife, has a kid, works for the U.S. military and needs to send me money. It's this big freaking scam. And the scam is like, people keep working the scam every which way in that. I'm from Germany and work in the U.S. I am from the Europe, but I work in Paraguay. Or one guy told me he worked in Paraguay off the coast as a deep sea fisherman or diver or something. And I'm like, it's a landlocked country. Get a map. oh my God, the lies. But sometimes it's genuine people looking for an actual relationship, but it's still like, dude, that's not a dating site. That energy is so freaking gross. Well, the Celestine prophecy talks about that, imposing your will on somebody. And like, if you really like somebody, that's okay. But to impose your will on them is really, really gross and wrong. So it talks about that. It talks about the energy around plants and how we're on Earth, humans, we're going to reach a critical mass. We have to clear all of our past. Talks about mystical messages from, spiritual masters of the past. Talks about how to manage and manipulate your own energy so that you are solvent. And I guess the gross energy I'm talking about is called the struggle for power. And also learning how to have your own interpersonal ethics and how to live by your own ethics and how to engage the flow of energy and how to make things go smoothly in your life and how not to be overimposing like your will on somebody. Like if you want a relationship with somebody and they're not ready and you impose that, it's almost like a monster or like the blob, and it like your energy can overtake that person's like head physically, like psychics can see it, it is just, I don't know. But I've had 2 guys in the past 3 days go, I'm going to need you to add Google Hangouts to your phone. Do you have the Play Store? Because I'm going to want to check up on you and make sure you're okay. And I'm like, why? Who the hell are you? Like, make sure I'm okay. Like, why? It's just so weird. Especially after I say I only want my twin flame now. I don't want a normal karmic-based soulmate style relationship anymore. Like, I'm just kind of over it. I cleared my karma. I don't want to accrue more, and people don't seem to understand it. I don't know. So that, for me, I've got to clear that from my past. But the Celestine prophecy talks about how to do all of these things. And if you're brand new, waking up, and you've never heard of this book, I highly recommend it. It will save yourself, decades of spiritual research, because it has a lot of things right there in one book. Also, it will help you with, it's just going to put you on a new course, but it'll be a good course. It'll be where you need to be, Like one thing led to another, led to another, led to another for me. Like, because I had a beautiful husband who was willing to work with me while I decided to go to hypnotherapy school. And then that's where I met my ultimate soulmate relationship, a father of my kids, and we were married 13 years. I mean, it's just everything led to another. One thing led to another, led to another. And then through it all, I discovered the karmic relationships that people had. Like, my first husband in a past life killed my second husband in battle in a dishonorable way. And in this life, his whole life was about honor. And he kept being accused of crimes and put in jail or being detained by police for things he absolutely did not do, like random things. And that was like his weird karma, because he had done stuff in the past that were really dishonorable. So now he's being accused of dishonorable things, even though he didn't do those things in this life. In this life, he's a gem of a person. He's a beautiful person. I mean, inside and out, the guy's got a heart of gold. Absolutely. But he had killed and took away the love of my life. So it was only karma that the love of my life came and took me away from him. And he lost what he thought he wanted. He wanted a relationship with me. So I felt really guilty until I discovered that truth. And I'm like, oh yeah, it was my husband discovered that truth. Yeah, okay. But the Celestine prophecy led me to this karma, and that I was like able to quickly get through it to get to, the good stuff of having my kids and, understanding what the married life is all about. And all that led to me living in Ecuador, single and unmarried, and raising my last child. My first one is an adult and living in California, and now I've got one left a year and a half before he leaves the nest. And I'm happy, and I've been filled with all kinds of spiritual insights since I've read this book. This one has 9 insights. After that, there's the 10th insight. After that, there's the 11th insight. So there's 2 more books in this series. So I do 100% recommend all of these books to you. And if you haven't read it in a long, long time, go back and reread it, see what you've missed. What's really funny is I was in Lima, Peru when I was thinking, I haven't read the Celestine prophecy in years. I wonder if I read this book again, is it going to change my life again? What is this mystical quality? So I started thinking about it. And then I moved to Ecuador. And while I was here in Ecuador, about 6 months after, my insight, my second sight told me to go to a special hostel. And they had a book exchange. And on the shelf was this book in hardcover form. And I'm like, yep. And it's a book the adventure starts off in Lima, Peru. So I hope that you've enjoyed this episode and my crazy stories of the Celestine prophecy and how it changed my life. I love each and every one of you with my whole heart, and just want to let you know that I'm here always if you want to reach me at metaphysicalsoulspeak@gmail.com. But now I am signing off with peace and love and joy and the high vibes of the holy 5th dimension. Until next time. Metaphysical Soul Speak is run on sponsors and listener support. This means listeners like you. If you are so inclined to support my efforts and my little podcast, please visit me at anchor.fm/metaphysical and pledge an amount of your choosing today. Thank you.